G'day guys, I'm Matt Brand and today I'm driving the new 2021 Volkswagen Tiguan. Just gone through a facelift both inside and out, even though it doesn't really look like it. In fact, you'd be forgiven for thinking I'm full of shit for even suggesting that it has gone through a facelift, but it has. And more importantly, you probably want to know, is it worth your hard-earned Australian sterling? Well, in today's critically acclaimed review, critically acclaimed by my dad. Hi Dad. I will show you all that's new with this Tiguan and why it's actually a pretty good car. So let's just roll that intro. Now the Tiguan range kicks off with the Life, which is the car that I'm sitting in here today. And you might be wondering, Matt, why are you driving a base model? Well, that's because for now, this is the only Tiguan to have launched in Australia, and there are models, quite a lot actually, coming progressively throughout the year. But actually in this review, you'll see why the base model is kind of pretty much everything you need. But anyway, there is a choice of two engines for the Life variant. There's a 110 TSI, which is the variant I'm driving here today. It is a 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine, and it pumps out a, amazingly, 110 kilowatt of power and 250 Newton meters of torque, which is actually very healthy. And that starts at about 41,500 Aussie rubles drive away. However, there is also a 132 TSI Life with, you guessed it, more power. But it also comes with all-wheel drive and the staple 7-speed Volkswagen Group dual clutch transmission, which is the one you want, as we'll soon find out. And really, for about, I don't know, 7 grand more, it's the pick. Excuse me here while I give it some front wheel drive, needs probably all-wheel drive source. Ooh. Spicy. I should probably also mention lots of other engines available. There's also a 162 TSI with even more power as a petrol engine. There's a 147 TDI, which is a turbo diesel 4-cylinder engine, and maybe Australia will get the Volkswagen Tiguan R, which comes with the Volkswagen Golf R's engine and drivetrain. That thing would be so much fun. And do let me know down in the comments, do you want me to review any of those other cars, or are you happy with this one? Let me know. Anyway, this 110 TSI is front wheel drive only, as I said, and it's paired to a rather odd choice of a 6-speed dual clutch transmission. I say it's an odd choice because the rest of the range is the 7-speed dual clutch, so I don't know why they're putting in the 6-speed to this, but yeah, it's all right. Actually, it's better than all right. It is a very good dual clutch. It does have the characteristic clunkiness when you're taking off, and especially when you're trying to reverse, when you're on a hill, it will start to roll forward quite often, and that can be quite discerning because it can't really engage the gear properly. But other than that, upshifts are really, really seamless. Downshifts as well are very seamless, and around town, it is a very good transmission and certainly better than most of its competitors. Now, the reason that I say go for the 132 TSI is not because this engine is slow. In fact, it's actually very punchy, and I really enjoyed driving around with it. And in fact, there's no better way for me to show you that than by doing launch control. The 0 to 100 or 0 to 62 miles per hour using launch control naturally is... Oh, well, hang on. Yeah, it's about 10 seconds, a little bit under, and that's right, folks. This front-wheel drive SUV base model has launch control, so try it for yourself. So the engine is really punchy, and I've really enjoyed my time driving with it. The real issue is that this car is front-wheel drive only, and in such a large car, in an SUV like this, you really do want to have that all-wheel drive system. Now, honestly, this front-wheel drive application has been one of the better ones I've driven, but you still get a little bit of torque steer and tram lining, things you would expect out of like a warm hatch, but in an SUV, and that's not really what you want here. And put simply, the 7-speed dual clutch is just a little bit more refined, and so spending that extra, whatever it is, 7 grand to get the more powerful engine, the all-wheel drive system, and the 7-speed dual clutch, it's a no-brainer to me. It really will transform this car from something good into something great. But anyway, there's loads more to talk about how this thing drives, but for now I want to talk about the exterior updates. The Tiguan really does look the same as it did in the pre-facelift, but there have actually been quite a few changes, which means that it's not really the same at all. First of all, you have new headlights, and I actually quite like the design. They now kind of wrap around the side. They don't look visibly that much different, but you know, they are. They have a cool LED daytime running lights, and as standard across the range, you get LED lights, which are nice and bright, so I'm a big fan of that. And then the grille and bumper have changed too. Again, it's not that noticeable, but what they're trying to do is bring it in line with the new Golf Mark 8, which is kind of their new design language. Ooh, also take a look at the new Volkswagen badge. It doesn't look that much different to before, but actually, I really like it. I don't know what they've done. They've like narrowed it down or whatever, but I think it looks pretty cool. What do you guys think though? Let me know in the comments below. And also take a look at this new color for the facelift, Dolphin Gray. It's called. It's like this flat gray, and it is beautiful. It changes depending on how much light is shining on it, and I highly recommend you option it. Anyway, to the side, and it looks pretty much identical to before because it really is. You know, Volkswagen have really gone for that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this is no better telling of that. But I do really like it, especially the really sharp edges and creases you could cut your finger on. It is really cool. Again, even though this is a base model, you do get 18-inch wheels with nice fat tires on them, which really does help for the drive, as we'll get into later. And I think that they look pretty good too, especially for base model wheels. And then up top you have your obligatory SUV rails, and got chrome along the side. I don't know, it just looks nice. And then very similarly for the rear, it really does look pretty identical. There are new tail lights though, and I do like their design, even though they look almost identical to before. The Tiguan badge is now also proudly spelt out below the new Volkswagen badge, and yeah, that's it. I actually really like the way that the Volkswagen Tiguan looks. It doesn't look as cheap as it is. And my partner, who is quite hard to please when it comes to the look of cars, really likes the way that this Volkswagen Tiguan looks. So take that for what you will. But what do you guys think of the way this thing looks? And does it look better than the pre-facelift? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious. Now I want to move on to the interior. But before we do, if you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can see as soon as I release cool car reviews like this. And while you're at it, if you've been enjoying the video, please do like it. It really helps the channel out. Thank you very much. Alrighty, the interior. And I'm going to start this by saying that this has been fitted with the only pack that this car can come with, but it is a incredibly expensive pack. It's $5,000 and it's called the luxury pack. And amongst other things, you get a panoramic sunroof, which admittedly is really nice and opens super wide, so it's almost a convertible experience in here. And then you also get these really nice Dakota leather seats, and they are heated, and you get this luxury leather steering wheel. But it's not a necessary option. So if you are a bit strapped for cash or you're on a budget, don't option it, you don't need it. But if you have wiggle room, it's quite nice. Anyway, the overall design is a little bit drab. It's the classic Volkswagen look of let's not offend anybody, and I actually don't mind it, but it is on the boring side. And I say that because it's just a sea of black plastics, and there's not much contrasting material, and where there is this like carbon fiber looking plastic here, well, it's like a dark gray. So it's a little bit drab. But the good news is that it's really well built. There's no rattles, there's no squeaks, and everywhere that you touch is nice soft touch materials. Although of course you do get your hard scratchy plastics, you can't really escape that, especially at a car at this price point, so I don't really care. This engine is super punchy. What's also great is the ergonomics and practicality within here, which the Volkswagen group, the entire group, do so well. Here's what I mean. Up front, you have a little storage area that's covered by this little slidey-widey thing. And within it, there are invisible cup holders that are variable. They will change depending on how big the bottle you have in there is. It is really cool. Now, to be honest, it is a bit of German over-engineering. I'd be a bit worried in 10 years' time if they're still functional, but I mean, they feel really robust, so there's that. Then you have massive door bins, which are felt lined, and that stops things from rattling around within there, which is a very nice touch. The glove box is actually pretty huge, and it is air conditioned too. So on longer road trips like I've done, you can keep things cool within there. That was awesome, especially on a hot day. You know, getting a cold drink out of there was quite nice. Then there's a hidden storage area next to the driver's leg, or at least hidden from anyone who hasn't watched this video. And of course you have a little storage area for your phone. There's no wireless charging in this base model, which is a shame, but also new for 2021, they've updated the USB-A ports to USB-C ports. And you get a little 12-volt socket there, which is nice. Oh, and how could I forget, there's netting on the passenger side so you can put stuff within there too. It's little attention to detail like that, which makes me love the interior of this car because it's just so practical, which is what you want if you're buying an SUV. And then the glove box, it is a pretty decent size, not the biggest, but it does ratchet and it does slide, so you can get it into a perfect position for you. Excuse me here while I give it some sauce. Oh. It's really peppy for a base model engine when there's like 1,600 other engines in the range. It's really good. The steering wheel is tilting and telescoping, of course, and these seats are adjusting massively and automatically too because of that luxury package. Anyway, as I said, you get these leather seats as part of the luxury package, and they are really nice. They feel great, very premium. As I said, I've taken this car on a really long journey to rural Victoria, and it has been fantastic. So comfortable driving on the highway. This thing is built for comfort. My one complaint though is on hot days, like it's a bit hot today, my back sticks to these seats because they're not perforated and they're not ventilated seats. So that's something to keep in mind. The cloth seats are still very good. It's kind of a similar situation with the steering wheel. It is a very nice steering wheel, but it's just unnecessary. The standard steering wheel that it comes with is also really nice, and it's also leather. I love the design too and the new VW badge within it. And then more impressively to me is the functionality. First of all, this steering wheel is heated. I'm sure it's part of that luxury package too. But new for 2021 is updated safety and assisted driving features. So now you have something called Travel Assist, which is one of the best lane keep systems out there. It will hook you up dead center in the lane. It will keep you a safe distance from the car in front of you, bring you to a stop, and automatically start you again. A lot of car companies, you have to press resume. Not in this thing. And anyone who does a lot of driving, whether it's highway or bumper to bumper traffic, it is a lifesaver, and I've loved it for that. But I haven't loved the jerkiness on takeoff from the dual clutch, though, you know, I've already said that. You also get paddle shifters on the steering wheel, which is a nice touch. What hasn't changed, and it's a very good thing that it hasn't, is this digital display up in front of me. It is honestly the best at this price point. Damn, this thing actually handles pretty well for an SUV. Surprising. And the reason that I love it is just so customizable. You have 3 different views which you change using the steering wheel, and then in the center you can change what it displays, and you could literally display anything you want. For example, if you want to have full screen maps in front of you, you can have it in front of you. If you want to have maps and a speedometer and a tachometer, you can have that too. And yeah, it's a little bit laggy, but it's super fine. So yeah, I love that. And I also quite like this 8-inch infotainment screen. Now it does feel a little bit small, especially for such a large car, but it now comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the good thing about it is just super responsive. It doesn't have digital radio, which is a shame, especially at a car this much. At almost $50,000 as option, this car, I would kind of hope it would have digital radio, but you can get around it by using Android Auto, and as I said, you have navigation and maps, so it's really not a big deal. Apart from it being a little bit small, I don't like the fact that it smudges so easily, and it can look quite gross, especially if you've got oily fingers. So maybe you can get around that by using gesture controls, because yes, this has gesture controls, which work about 50% of the time for me. Now moving to the rear seats, and this is one of the biggest reasons that you would buy a Tiguan, apart from being pretty good value, it's because there's loads of room back there. At 5'11", I have plenty of leg room, headroom, and toe room. And the seats do slide and recline too, so you can get very comfortable back there. Also, even though this is a base model, you get a 3rd zone climate control back there. You can't control fan speed, but you can control the temperature, so I really like that. And you get a USB-C port and 12-volt socket there too for charging devices. What is a bit weird is that there's like storage spaces at the top of the seats, but I have found a use for them. For example, I put sunnies in there, so I don't know, they're useful. It's nice to have. It's just, I haven't seen it before. And then the boot is absolutely huge. It is pretty much class leading, 615 liters. You can fit so much back there. It's also got a false floor, so you can keep it as a flat loading bay, or you can adjust it to get more room. And again, base model, it is an automatic tailgate with a wave your foot function with it too. So it's very practical. Back to how this thing drives though, and I thought I'd take it back to its element, the burbs, to really know how this thing feels. Honestly, it is just so good. Now, you don't have adaptive dampers or anything like that. It is a fixed suspension, but it's surprisingly good. Even on these pretty horribly paved roads, it really does soak up bumps. Like, look at this. Ooh, that was good. And yet, when you do turn a corner, there isn't much body roll at all. And it is very happy just to glide along the road. Now, it's not the softest suspension out there. It is still a bit on the firmer side, but I don't mind it. It does help to make it a little bit more engaging to drive, as you shall now see. Ooh. Oh yeah. Oh my God, okay. Another thing that the Tiguan nails is the steering. It's like the perfect level of heaviness and lightness. You know, you don't get this like rubbery feeling through the steering wheel. It really does feel very natural and and very well tuned. So yeah, I've just been really impressed by how this thing has driven. It's got a punchy engine, even though this is the base model. I just can't wrap my head around it. It's got a really punchy engine, and it's quite a lot of fun to drive, even in this front-wheel drive form. And regardless of whether you're driving around the suburbs or on the highway, this thing is a really comfortable cruiser, and it's just so well loaded and equipped. Oh yeah, and how could I forget fuel economy? This thing has been really impressive. 8.8 liters per 100 kilometers, which is very good for mostly urban driving. I'm really impressed by that. And the tank is absolutely massive, so you can easily go like 1,000 kilometers on a single tank. It's very impressive. So is the Volkswagen Tiguan worth your hard-earned cash? Well, I think absolutely, especially for this base model. It's just so well equipped, and even though I recommend going for the all-wheel drive with the 132 TSI engine, if you want to go for the 110 TSI engine and you're not doing a lot of off-roading, or you don't really care about the extra grip, it's a really great value car. And you probably don't need the luxury pack, even though it's kind of nice. It's probably unnecessary. But I'm curious, what do you guys think of the Volkswagen Tiguan? Have they changed enough with this facelift? And do you love the car or do you hate it? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, subscribe if you are new around here. I release an awesome new car review like this every single week. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do like it. It really helps the channel out. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you next week.